Welcome back to Lavinia the Cat Reads the Ugly Duckling. I'm Lavinia the Cat. Now let's continue where we left off, shall we? What are you thinking of? Cried the hen. You have nothing to do. That's why you have these fancies. Lay eggs or purr, and they will pass over. But it is so charming to swim on the water, said the duckling. So refreshing to let it close above one's head, and to dive down to the bottom. Yes, that must be a mighty pleasure, truly, quoth the hen. I fancy you must have gone crazy. Ask the cat about it. He's the cleverest animal I know. Ask him if he likes to swim on the water, or to dive down. I won't speak about myself. Ask our mistress, the old woman. No one in the world is cleverer than she. Do you think she has any desire to swim? And to let the water close above her head? You don't understand me, said the duckling. We don't understand you? Then pray, who is to understand you? You surely don't pretend to be cleverer than the cat and the woman. I won't say anything of myself. Don't be conceited, child, and thank your Maker for all the kindness you have received. Did you not get into a warm room, and have you not fallen into company from which you may learn something? But you are a chatter, and it is not pleasant to associate with you. You may believe me. I speak for your good. I tell you disagreeable things, and by that one may always know one's true friends. Only take care that you learn to lay eggs or to purr and give out sparks. I think I will go out into the world, said the duckling. Yes, do go, replied the hen. And so the duckling went away. It swam onto the water and dived, but it was slighted by every creature because of its ugliness. Now came the autumn. The leaves in the forest turned yellow and brown. The wind caught them so that they danced about, and up in the air it was very cold. The clouds hung low, heavy with hail and snowflakes, and on the fence stood the raven crying, "Crow, crow!" For mere cold, yes, it was enough to make one feel cold to think of this. The poor little duckling certainly had not a good time. One evening, the sun was just setting in his beauty. There came a whole flock of great, handsome birds out of the bushes. They were dazzlingly white, with long flexible necks. They were swans. They uttered a very peculiar cry, spread forth their glorious great wings, and flew away from that cold region to warmer lands, to fair open lakes. They mounted so high, and the ugly duckling felt quite strangely as it watched them. It turned round and round in the water like a wheel, and stretched out its neck towards them, and uttered such a strange loud cry as frightened itself. Oh, it could not forget those beautiful happy birds, and so as it could see them no longer, it dived down to the very bottom, and when it came up again, it was quite beside himself. It knew not the name of those birds, and knew not whether they were flying, but it loved them more than it had ever loved anyone. It was not at all envious of them. How could it think of wishing to possess such loveliness as they had? It would have been gladly It would have been glad if only the ducks would have endured its company, the poor ugly creature. As the winter grew cold, very cold, and the winter grew cold, very cold, the duckling was forced to swim about in the water to prevent the surface from freezing entirely. But every night the hole in which it swam about became smaller and smaller. It froze so hard that the icy covering crackled again, and the duckling was obliged to use his legs continually to prevent the hole from freezing up. At last it became exhausted and lay quite still, and thus froze fast into the ice. Early in the morning, a peasant came by, and when he saw what had happened, he took its wooden shoe, broke the ice crust to pieces, and carried the duckling home to his wife. Then it came to itself again. The children wanted to play with it, but the duckling thought they wanted to hurt it. And in its terror fluttered up into the milk pan, so that the milk spurted down into the room. The woman clasped her hands, at which the duckling flew down to the butter tub, and then into the meal barrel and out again. How it looked then! The woman screamed and struck at it with the fire tongs. The children tumbled over one another in their efforts to catch the duckling, and they laughed and they screamed. Well, it was that the door stood open, and the poor creature was about to slip out between the shrubs into the newly fallen snow. There it lay quite exhausted. But it would be too melancholy if I were to tell all the misery and care which the duckling had to endure in the hard winter, and lay out on the moor among the reeds. When the sun began to shine again, and the larks to sing, it was a beautiful spring. Then all at once the duckling could flap its wings. They beat in the air more strongly than before, and bore it strongly away. And before it went, I well know how all this happened. It found itself in a great garden, where the elder trees smelled sweet, and bent their long green branches down into the canal that would through the region. Oh, here it was so beautiful. Such a gladness of spring. And from the thicket came 3 glorious white swans. They rested their wings and swam lightly on the water. The duckling knew the splendid creatures, and felt oppressed by the peculiar sadness. I will fly to them, to the royal birds, and they will beat me, because I, that am so ugly, dared to come near them. But it is all the same. Better to be killed by them than to be pursued by ducks, and beaten by fowls, and pushed about by the girl who takes care of the poultry yard, and to suffer hunger in winter. And it flew out into the water and swam towards the beautiful swans. These looked at it, and came sailing down upon it with the outspread wings. "Kill me," said the poor creature, and bent his head down upon the water, expecting nothing but death. But what was this that it saw in the clear water? It beheld its own image, and lo, it was no longer a clumsy dark gray bird, ugly and hateful to look at, but a swan. It matters nothing if one is born in a duck yard, if one has only lain in a swan's egg. It felt quite glad at all the need and misfortune it had suffered now. It realized its happiness. Now it realized its happiness, and all the splendor that surrounded it, and the great swans swam around it, and stroked it with their beaks. And this is where I will stop for part 3. Stay tuned for part 4 of Lavinia the Cat Reads The Ugly Duckling.